This is Billy Trout, a manager of Taxpayer Services, Taxpayer Education section. And on behalf of our Commissioner David Jaragino and our staff in Taxpayer Services and our Audit Division, I'd like to welcome you to our presentation today on Tennessee's liquor by the drink tax. With us today, I've got Miss Katie Julian, who will be presenting the information, as well as a couple of experts here. We've got Logan Hall from our field auditor with our liquor that does liquor by the drink audits and other types of audits. So welcome, Logan. And Kellen Wheeler, who is in our miscellaneous group in taxpayer services. And Kellen deals with a lot of issues with liquor by the drink and all kinds of other alcohol, tobacco, and other sorts of, I guess you could say, unusual taxes in our state. So, and finally, our Assistant Director in Taxpayer Services, Dan Vinson, is on board. He is eagerly awaiting you to ask questions later on in the presentation as we address your issues today. So with that, I will go ahead and turn this over to Katie, who will give you some more introduction stuff and then proceed to the presentation. Thanks a lot, Katie.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our monthly free tax webinar on liquor by the drink, also known as consumption as alcohol on premises. A few things that you see in front of you right now. If you have audio issues throughout this, we have found over the years, the best thing to do is just to leave the event and then come back. We are recording this webinar, and a recording will be available on our website in our webinar video library later today or definitely by tomorrow. If you need CPE credit when you exit the webinar here in about an hour, there will be a survey, and there's a question on the survey to answer if you need CPE credit. We're not going to be able to get to all the questions. We will open chat up when we get to the Q&A chat portion about halfway through this webinar, but and we'll repeat this information to you again, but this is just our general tax line and our general email address, some information about that. And then you see the lovely little QR code here with the little dinosaur in it. That is actually a PDF of today's presentation. If you want to go download that or kind of follow along with that. The links that you'll see, the hyperlinks that you see within this WebEx are not, you can't click on them, but you can click on them from the PDF. So you may want to go ahead and check that out. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get going on our topic, liquor by the drink. So with very few exceptions, if you sell at retail alcoholic beverages, wine, high alcohol content beer for consumption on the premises, you must pay the liquor by the drink tax on the gross sales of those beverages. The tax should be collected from the consumer of the beverage, and the rate is 15%. As I just mentioned, this is also known as the consumption of alcoholic beverages on premises. It was enacted in 1967 by Public Chapter 211 and codified in the TCA Section 57.4.101 and what follows that, and in Revenue Rules 1320-04-02, and then .01 through .08. We are going to be covering a lot today. We had a webinar a few months ago on liquor by the drink. On just alcohol taxes in general, and realized when we covered all that gosh, each one of these subtopics within the alcohol taxes takes its own. Is going to take its own webinar. That's why we're having this today. And then honestly, there are some topics within just this topic, such as bonds, price schedules, like filing the actual return, that could again have its own 1 hour dedicated to them. So we are going to just cover the basics of some definitions, different types of licenses, what is taxable, how to register, including that bond information, how and when to file, the price schedule, disposition. There are some special circumstances and some exceptions to liquor by the drink. And then about halfway through, maybe a little less, we're going to have some time to take your questions. We'll open up chat at that point and share some resources with you as well. Just a resource page here for you. We do have a Liquor by the Drink topic page on our website that has basic information. This is a link directly over to all of our revenue help articles about Liquor by the Drink. We'll reference those a few other times here in this presentation. We have a whole manual dedicated to alcohol taxes. We're going to be talking about the Tennessee ABC also. This is a link over to their website. And as I just mentioned, we did do a webinar just a few months ago on alcohol taxes, which will give kind of an overview of all of the alcohol related taxes. Before we get going, I'm just going to go through this model here. Tennessee has a 3-tier system for selling and distributing alcoholic beverages, wine, and high alcohol content beer and beer. Beer's usually, just regular beer's usually regulated at the local level, but generally a licensed retailer can only purchase these items from a licensed wholesaler. A licensed wholesaler can only purchase from a licensed manufacturer or importer, and neither a licensed manufacturer, importer, nor licensed wholesaler can sell directly to the consumer. You have to be a licensed retailer for that. But there are just a few limited exceptions, especially with regards to as it relates to distilleries, wineries, places like that. And we'll talk about that here in just a minute about kind of breaking this tier. But this is pretty much a rule here, this 3-tier system. So for liquor by the drink, who is liable? All businesses that sell alcoholic beverages, wine, or high alcohol content beer at retail for consumption are liable for LBD. We're going to talk about some definitions here of what is considered an alcoholic beverage. It's alcoholic spirits or liquor containing at least 5% alcohol by volume. Wine, fermented juice containing no more than 21% alcohol by volume. And high content alcohol content beer is beer or ale containing more than 8%. Less than 8%, not subject to liquor by the drink. All of these items must be purchased from an authorized wholesaler, as I just discussed in the 3-tier system. So a business can only sell these beverages for consumption on premises if, first of all, they comply with any kind of local requirements. First things first, make sure that you're authorized that in the jurisdiction that you're in the municipality, in the county, that you can sell liquor by the drink. And then after that, there's a license that you obtain from the Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission, and you register for an LBD account along with other tax accounts with the Tennessee Department of Revenue. So the licenses, we are not going to go into depth right now on licenses. That is something that the TABC handles, and you can see here, these are links directly over if you've got the PDF or want to reference it later, links over to the different licenses and the information about each one of these licenses over on the ABC's website. So we've got restaurant, special occasion, hotel, motel, a wine-only restaurant, airlines, boats, and trains, a caterer's license, a club, limited service restaurants, and then festival. So as I mentioned, there are a few exceptions, as with anything, right? Certain sales of alcoholic beverages for consumption on the premises of alcoholic beverage manufacturers are exempted from liquor by the drink tax. What you see here, licensed distillery samples and sales of alcoholic beverages sold for consumption on the premises of the distillery are exempt from liquor by the drink tax. For a licensed winery, farm wine producer, or satellite facility, for samples are not going to be subject to liquor by the drink. Retail sales sealed in sealed containers for consumption on premises are not going to be subject to LBD. But if you notice here on the bottom here of this screen, sales of wine by the glass for consumption on premises at the licensed winery are subject to liquor by the drink. I always say with all of our webinars, especially this time of year, laws can always change on this stuff. Especially, it seems like the past several years, every year there are alcohol law changes. There was one bill introduced just the other day with our General Assembly, who just came back into session about regarding liquor by the drink with wine sold by the on premises at a winery. So the information that we're giving you today is good and current as of January 28th, 2025. But again, our legislature is in session and some of this stuff could change. We try to at least update the PDF of these webinars if there are law changes, but if there's big changes, we'll go re-record the whole webinar, which we've had to do recently about franchise excise tax and business tax and some others just due to major changes. But um, if we have time later, I can show you where to catch up with what happens with the legislature. Okay, so some more exemptions here. Art galleries that do not sell food or beverages and that receive 90% of their revenue from the sale of artwork can serve wine to patrons without a charge and are not required to pay the tax on the wine they serve. Commercial airlines, paddle wheel steamboat companies, and passenger trains also do not pay LBD tax on their sales of alcoholic beverage. In lieu of that, there is a wholesale gallonage tax that they on alcoholic beverages that they bring into Tennessee. So charitable, nonprofit, and political organizations that hold a special occasion license, that's one of those licenses that the TABC can give out. If they sell alcoholic beverages pursuant to that license, do not owe liquor by the drink tax on those sales. So registration for liquor by the drink. So we already talked about first step, make sure that you're authorized in your jurisdiction to be able to have consumption of alcoholic beverages on premises. But then you're going to obtain that license from the ABC and register with us. When registering for liquor by the drink, you also have to register for sales and use tax and post a bond. Hey, Kellen, you are the pro on this. You are our subject matter expert on registration. I'd love to hear you come in and tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I would just like to just give a quick tip. You can do any of these in any particular order, but I will advise to register for any account, especially your tax accounts first, before registering your license application at the ABC if you're just looking for a quick turnaround. If you're missing like anything like a tax account or any type of bond requirement, the ABC will deny your license application until you turn those in to them.
That's good advice. Nobody wants to go back and forth, right? And I'm sure that um, there's lots of I's to dot and T's to cross when you're going through this whole process. So you're
Yeah,
saying, Kellen, come to us, figure out the bond stuff, registering for LBD also, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. It's going to require also submitting a price schedule. And that price schedule, again, we'll get to that, but I think that's also required from the ABC. So you're kind
that's
of
correct.
doing some stuff for both, but maybe starting with Department of Revenue, getting that bond stuff taken care of, getting the tax accounts registered for first is helpful, right?
Yeah,
Maybe next time I present this, I should put this as number one and then this is number two, or how about that?
yeah, that'll work.
But they're kind of interchangeable, but might help to start with us. All right. Well, thank you for adding that, Kellen.
No problem.
Um, he's probably going to have some stuff to add on this too, because this is in his area. Bonds. Every business that has a LBD license with the Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission has a bond on file with us, the Department of Revenue. It's a requirement to be issued a liquor license. That's where what Kellen was just saying, getting that settled first with us before you go there. Would save you some time, right? But this is something that's changed in the past couple years, Kellen, right? So it used to be um, you could have an initial wine license or I know right now as of July 1, 2024, it's $10,000 is the bond amount and it doesn't go any
That's right.
lower than that, right?
Yep, that's correct.
So beginning that began on July 1, and that wine only bond was used to be only a couple grand, right? And now it's also up to that 10,000.
Yeah, it started off at 2000, and then the legislator, like you said, back in July, increased all bond requirements to start at 10,000, no matter if you have wine only or a
Okay.
full liquor bar.
And it can't go below that. So tell us a little bit, Kellen, about the process of um, those need, if you need your bond increased, the review, how does that work?
Yeah, so every October 1st, the Department of Revenue will conduct a bond review, and we'll let you know if your bond requirement went up or down or stayed the same. If it did go up, you are required to increase the bond to the required amount on the letter. And if you do not, it can cause delays with your liquor license renewal, and it can also possibly cause a cancellation of your liquor license. So I would advise everyone to just, pay attention to correspondence with bond review, so that way you can get that bond increase in as quick as possible.
Is that letter issued via their tin tap too? If that is that a letter that if they get letters in tin tap or know how to look at their letters in tin tap, they can view? Do you know?
Yeah, it is
Well,
viewable in 10 tap.
good.
So like I would say around October 2nd or 3rd, just view your 10 tap account to see if
Be on
your
the
bond
lookout.
requirement went up or down.
And then increasing that bond, if you have to, that's something you can do on tin tap as well. Is that right?
Yeah, you will actually need to print off the surety bond writer form, and you will take that bond writer form to your insurance company to complete the increase.
Okay, great, great. You can see here, there's a lot of information about bonds. These are links here. If you've got the PDF, directly over to articles that give you more information about bonds. This probably could have been something we could spend a lot more time on, but
Oh yeah.
in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and move forward. But keep your questions when we open up for chat here in a few minutes. We can hopefully address some bond questions if you've got, but some good links here to some articles about bonds. The price schedule. So everyone licensed to sell alcoholic beverages for consumption on premises must fill out this liquor by the drink price schedule of the alcoholic beverages that they offer to sell. Taxpayers must file the price schedule before entering business and then at least annually thereafter. So you can amend the price schedule if you need to, if there's significant changes during the year. But the beginning price schedule should be based on what you think your prices and pour sizes will be. After 3 months of business, if a business finds that its actual prices and pour sizes are different than originally reported, then you can amend it then. We've simplified this form over the years, and now it's pretty basic. The information that's needed, it's just pour size and selling price, and you can group different drinks with the same selling price and pour sizes together. So that's good. Logan, I'm going to bring you in here because I know this is an area that you have a lot of information about. When we were talking about this last week, when we were talking about how sometimes it's kind of good to go into the paper form to kind of see how this is done. But you can see here, this is what it looks like when you do it in tin tap. There's several ways you can submit this, right, Logan? Oops, I can't hear you.
So sorry.
There we go. There we go. We got you now.
Yes, you can fill out the paper form and it gives great instructions on, again, you want your price and your pour, and if you have multiple drinks, so the same price and pour, and then you'll fill out the quantity with it, and it gives you great instructions on that. You also can fill it out manually in this price schedule in TinTap, and then some reports on your point of sale system will allow you to pull a product mix report, and it will give you the list of all the drinks sold, drink name, price, and then you would just have to fill in your pour on that. But all always are great to have.
So I think I'm going to take a minute and go over to that paper form. Um, let's go look at that. Hold on just a second. Share web browser. So I'm on tn.gov/revenue here. Going to go over to the liquor by the drink page. So you can click on taxes, either here or here. I'll click on the tile. Liquor by the drink. Let me increase the size of everything just a little bit. I'm going to click on price schedule. And here's information about the price bill. This is the paper form. Looks kind of like it does on TinTap, but one of the things I like about this paper form is the examples that it gives down here. So Logan, could you talk to us just a little bit about that, about the examples here and how that kind of translates into the real world?
Yes. So, you can, when you have multiple drinks that are the same price and pour. You can do wine one or liquor one, however you want to label that out when you fill this form. But you just want to keep your prices, and they have to be the same price and they have to be the same pour. And then you can make an average bottle, quantity sold for all of those drinks that are going to be underneath that, to get you an idea of what you'll end up filing. Um, and again, this gives you really a detailed elaboration on how to file those, and then or you can input those individually into your into TINTAP too.
But do you mainly see, as an auditor, when you're in the field, do you mainly see those reports that their system generates? Is that what most people use, or is it a
Yes.
mix? Okay.
Well, it's give and take. It depends on the industry,
Okay.
and what point of sale system they have. I do think it's beneficial if you have a point of sale system that can pull that report, and it'll just give you a spreadsheet of all your drinks that were sold in the year, and get a quantity and a price, average price of that drink, and you
Right.
can just attach that to your tin tap, and then you'll have to fill out what include if the drink includes or doesn't include liquor and sales tax as well. But then you would have to put what your ounces are
Okay.
with that
Gotcha.
product mix report.
Are there major issues you see with the price schedule that would be good to mention, or do people usually get it pretty right?
It varies as well. I think the biggest, again, takeaway is to understand that we're just trying to get a how much the price is for a pour, and then you're going to get that off your quantity. If you can't get a report, consolidating on your, filling this out, as many drinks that have the same price, put in with the ounces. Um, it's just understanding that you just need to put whatever price it is in your ounces and the
And
quantity
if
itself.
there's less than 10, they don't have to include it, right? If they're is
Yes.
that okay.
Yeah, because then that's not in the grand scheme of things. Where not in 30 days, you only sold 10 of those drinks. It's not going to make a difference.
Minimal, yeah.
Right.
Okay. And is the main reason for this, because I know that on the actual return, which we'll get to in a minute, you do have to put information about inventory, right? Like starting inventory. Is this used just to make sure that that an auditor
No.
knows? Okay.
No, it doesn't have anything to do with the inventory. But it gets us an idea of the markup of the drink.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Well, let me go back over to, is there anything else that you think would be good to show them here on this sample, or?
Um, Nothing for showing on that. Just also, if you do have a significant price change, again, it's super important to go in there and change that up and get it as most accurate as possible.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
If y'all have got any questions about that, we'll open up chat here in a few minutes. Return. It is due monthly on the 15th of each month. Again, like I said, the tax rate is 15%. Um, we are not going to go into a lot of depth today about the return. If there are a lot of questions that come out from y'all, we may end up needing a whole webinar about filing the LBD return, like we have done for some other tax types. Hey, Logan, jump in here.
Yes, I just guess the importance of filing these returns and understanding your price at the drink as well. So in short, anything that you file from line 3 and 4 are going to total at line 6. So whatever you put from line 3 to 4 need to reflect what was charged to the customer. I cannot stress that enough, that we need whatever is on the receipt goes into the report correctly and that you're filing correctly. So an example, if it is a $10 drink, and if you separately charge liquor tax and sales tax, which is fine, it will need to be $10 plus the sales tax plus the liquor tax in these lines 3 through 5 that total to the 6. Because then the return will then back out on line 7 the sales tax and the liquor tax. So if they weren't included, you're reducing that gross number. So it's so imperative, if the $10 include the liquor tax and sales tax and it wasn't charged separately, leave the $10 in that amount and then it'll reduce accordingly.
Okay.
So very important to follow down what is being charged to your consumer, and then it's tracking through the reports, and that the liquor tax and sales tax is included correctly in those numbers.
I think that from what I've understood, that is one of the most confusing parts about this
Yes.
return is just how to, and I think we have here, is it the next slide? Yeah, this slide about how to kind of back it out, the importance of menu pricing, and how if you include it in there, you have to state so on the menu. But
Right.
this calculation here kind of shows you how to back it out. Or include it either way. You're going to take the normal sales price, the rate, plus the state and local. This example has a 9.25. So, the state rates for sales tax is 7%. So that wherever this is would be a local rate of 2.25. So if your local rate was 2.75, this would be 9.75 in doing this calculation. But you're going to take that amount, in this case, 124.25%, going to take your gross sales and then divide that by that percentage. So 1.2425, and that's going to give you that taxable base. So that's going to kind of help you figure out, right, how to, and I admit I am not a math person and I had to really stare at this for a little while, but Logan, I know you are as an auditor. So, is there anything you can advise about this process for
Yes.
taxpayers?
Yeah, and that's to keep in mind is this shows you that if you back it out and get that net base, that's what should be on line 7. So
Okay.
just again, keep in mind that the return's going to do it for you, and I think that's been the biggest issue of understanding that you want to include it, and then on your own, if you want to double check that your net base, or your net sales for your taxable base it does not include the liquor tax and the sales tax, you'll look on line 7.
Line 7. Okay.
But don't do that yourself, if you will, or do that in the return because then the return will take it out.
So to repeat, gross sales that include the tax, all the tax, liquor tax, sales
And
tax,
sales tax,
any
yeah.
mandatory tips, all that goes into line 6, and then 7 is going to be the taxable base.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Inventory deductions. We'll move along here. Licensees, I'm sorry, cannot dispose of alcoholic beverages through any method other than by sale for consumption on premises. Um, any disposition of the beverages that are not excused by law are considered a sale, basically. We're going to talk about here in a minute some other things because accidents happen and some other things. So the LBD return does require that you report inventory at the beginning and the end of each month. So talking here about deductions and things that, like I said, accidents can happen. Upon proper proof of certain types of loss, the Tennessee Department of Revenue, can issue a certificate to you documenting the loss, such as theft, breakage, or acts of nature. So important to note here that someone from the Department of Revenue has to view the loss. So there are probably many of you out there that probably have us on speed dial for coming out because I know that accidents do happen, especially when you're moving fast back behind the bar. So taxpayers have to prove that a bottle was not open prior to breakage as well. Alcohol used for cooking must be stored separately. No portion of the bottle may be sold for consumption. Destroyed it must be destroyed in the presence of a Department of Revenue agent due to closure. And we're going to talk about that here right now, actually, about closing. Real important here. We actually are going to be having a webinar later on this spring dedicated just all to how to close your business, because we've noticed that it's where a lot of businesses end up in collections and end up having to pay penalties and fees that you don't want to. So we're going to start really trying to focus in on making sure. I know that if you're in business right now, you don't want to think about closing, but it's going to happen at some point, and we want to make sure you do it the right way. So how to close properly with liquor by the drink account. You're going to file that last return and pay any outstanding amount within 15 days after the date of selling or getting out of business. Filing that last return, very important there. You're going to surrender your ABC license to the TABC, and then determine what you will do with your remaining liquor. You can either sell it back to wholesalers, you can keep it. You'll need to file and pay for use tax on any liquor that's kept. That's on your sales tax return. You'll file for that. or you can destroy it if you choose that option. Sounds like a shame to me, but if you so choose, TDOR, Department of Revenue employee must be present, and you will owe no tax on any liquor that is properly destroyed. You see our information here too, to have a auditor come out from the Tennessee Department of Revenue to do an ending inventory. After you do all that, you can obtain tax clearance from us. So I am going to go ahead and if Logan, Kellen, Billy, Dan, if y'all want to come back in, I will open up the chat.
I think this was a great presentation. Katie and Logan and Kellen did a great job with it too. The thing that strikes me just looking at this, from a kind of a 30,000 foot level or whatever, is how heavily regulated this is. If you think about it, that manufacturer, which we didn't talk too much about, but manufacturing all the way down to the consumer, basically there's taxes involved. It's very, very intricate. So that means that your bookkeeping has got to be crystal clean, and you want to be sure that you're doing things right. So, when Logan's talking about, how to report things on the return right, or Kellen's talking about the fact that you've got to get your registration right before you start, that's really important. It's like super important. Kellen knows, and Katie too, like I do in taxpayer services, that basically registration drives everything that we do. So when you ask for that liquor by the drink tax, you ask for a bond account to be set up, you ask for a sales tax account to be set up, tag, you're it. And we have to have those returns filed in the periods that they're supposed to be, typically monthly, right? But even if you say, well, it really didn't open up until March, and so I didn't really file anything. That's a no. You still have to file, even if it's zeros on any open periods, based on when you register. So be sure you get everything sort of lined up, but then understand that there's a filing obligation on all of your taxes until until you close down. Really, is what it comes down to. Okay, so that's the end of my sermon. So I'll be quiet now. But Katie, did we open up chat already?
Yeah, chat's open.
All right, cool.
Angelina has a question here that I'm not sure I know the answer to. What about salons that offer wine and beer during service? Do they need to register for LBD if they're just offering it for free?
Yeah, they would still need to register for LBD, and they actually would need to get a license before they start to offer those services, even if they're just giving wine
Okay.
away for free.
Okay. How would that work on the return if you're giving it away for free? The salon has to pay liquor by the drink tax on it, like if they're giving it away?
Yeah, they would still pay the liquor tax. So even if, like I said, even if it's a free sample, the
Mm-hmm.
liquor tax, the 15% tax would still need to be included on your
In the
return
sales tax, yes.
and yep,
Yeah,
and sales tax.
just giving it away.
Justin commented about using the report, the toast report. Yes, if your report pulls the liquor tax with the total, it will be included on line 3 with your all the liquor tax, sales tax, and the sale price.
Somebody in chat also said, Logan, that they had a question about a price schedule, and new clients never file the price schedule. And then what should they do in a situation like that?
Yeah, I would get one filed as soon as possible.
Just get it on board, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then keep it updated for moving forward. Let's see here.
Jimmy's asking, what happens if a taxpayer doesn't report their ending inventory on their final return?
I don't know that it would be, or was it for this?
I think on the sales tax
I think,
returns, what Jimmy's asking about.
yeah, it wouldn't be on the sales tax return. Well, if they were to keep the request for a closing inventory, and they were to want to keep for personal consumption any of the liquor and wine inventory, obviously Department of Revenue representative would come out there and take care of that. And there will be a use tax that can be filed on the sales tax return. We do have a team that tries to keep up for those that do not file for that use tax. As far as if it were related to liquor by the drink of an ending inventory, it could be zero because we came out there and we disposed of everything and there was no inventory. But hopefully that would be the case. And the Department of Revenue was already out there.
Logan, I got this question, and this may be an issue that you have run into. So let's say that a business is sold and to another person, another entity, like say they were an LLC and another LLC bought them out. Are they going to have to return that liquor to the wholesaler, or can they transfer that inventory to the new owner? Or do you know?
Um, that is what we're advised at the moment is that if it is the same entity, an LLC to an LLC, the new entity has an ABC license approved and an LBD account with us, it can be transferred.
Okay. And then, of course, the documentation is critical
Correct.
in case for auditors to come
Well,
about.
we'll have to come out there
No,
still. So it would still an auditor come out there to verify the inventory count and witness it,
physical
and then
inventory.
we
Yeah.
do the seller and the receiver representatives, whoever need to be there to sign off on it. We get the account, and it can be transferred.
And I would imagine that they would need to get the resale certificate from the new owner also from a sales tax perspective to avoid potential use tax. Does that sound right to you?
Not necessarily, not when it pertains to liquor, and that's
Okay.
something
So
that
there's enough documentation there to understand what happened to it. Okay.
yes, as long as we have an
Gotcha.
ABC license, they've got an LBD account, the new owner, and they're the same entity as far as an LLC to an LLC, it can be transferred.
Okay.
And everyone's in good standing. Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure everybody's registered properly with Kellen and his crew and everybody's all good. Okay.
Someone just had a question about, is the resale certificate transferable? When the new business opens up their tax account, they will be issued their sales tax account, they will be issued their own
Indeed.
resale
Absolutely.
certificate.
Indeed.
Yes.
It's sales tax 101 right there. Everybody's got to be registered for their own stuff.
Yep.
Good
Um,
question, though.
Yep.
I see one with when submitting monthly inventory, how are open bottles counted? It is just as simple as doing, we like to do the intents of a bottle. So if it's half a bottle, 0.5, you get a total of your cost. So your cost times that, whatever that half bottle is what cost is remaining. And then you'll add that to everything else. There was also a question of disposing bottles. If they are collecting dust, you don't want them anymore, or if there has been some damage. If you will still contact that audit communications, I believe would be the best choice on that. That we'll get a field auditor to come out and dispose of it, just as it, and it can be. You can still be open. It doesn't have to be a closing. And we couldn't be able to get out there every month just with the resources we have, but we are available to do that at our best opportunity, and we'll go out there and dispose of it. If you have bottles that were broken, please make sure to have sometimes the cap or the bottom. You don't want to keep all the shard glass everywhere if we can't get out there soon enough. But then we'll send you with a breakage or a reduction of inventory and we'll also be posting it to your account. And you can reduce it from inventory.
And Logan, someone also was asking about receipts. On receipts to customers, can we combine the rates with the sales tax and the LBD, or must it be itemized? I think Katie sort of mentioned this anyway in the presentation. Would you mind just sort of reiterating that?
Yes. So what I will advise on that is absolutely fine to do that as long as the calculations are correct and you've got the sales tax plus the liquor tax. Also making sure that when it's with food, that the food is also being correctly charged. So if you have a liquor drink and a food drink, sometimes the point of sale, if every thing isn't clicked out right, it won't charge correctly. So as long, I mean, if you just do the drink by itself and want to do the combination of 15% and 9 point, your jurisdiction at the local rate, that is fine. It's just important. Uh, and the easiest way is just to separately itemize it so your report's pulling it correctly, but you can do that.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to see what other questions we might have here that we want to touch on.
Kellen, here's a
Kellen,
question about from Diana about the bond. Is the liquor bond ever refundable? For instance, if they've been in business for a long time. Now, if they
We'll
have to
let
maintain that bond, right?
Yeah, we'll let Kellen talk about that. He's the bond guy.
Mhm.
Yeah. So a liquor bond is only refundable if you supply the Department of Revenue a cash bond. That's basically if you uh, use cash like $10,000 in lieu of a surety bond through an insurance company. At that point, if you cancel your liquor license or if you want to replace that cash bond with a surety bond, that's when you can ask for a refund. But if not, the cash bond will have to stay in place until you decide to cancel your business.
Thank you, Kellen. Appreciate that. All right, looking for some other goodies here.
Just to reiterate, Adam says if my business comps a drink to a guest or client, sounds like taxes still due, correct? Yes,
Oh
that is
yeah.
That's
correct.
correct.
Oh
No
yeah.
tax, yep. A question came through on a registration form. I'll go ahead and address that too. About what about the THC drinks or the hemp-derived cannabinoid drinks? Those are separate from liquor by the drink. They're not handled by the ABC. We do have a separate tax for those, and there is a separate license that you would need to be able to serve those drinks. You receive that license from the Department of Ag. You would pay a tax to Department of Revenue. It's a 6% tax. It's not a whole separate tax type. It's actually just a schedule on your sales tax return, but that is separate from the ABC. There have been questions in the past about what about mixing uh, the hemp-derived cannabinoid drinks with liquor drinks. We don't know anything about that at this point, in which case I would stay away from it. The law hasn't addressed it. It's still the hemp-derived cannabinoid law is still very new. Their licensing for that just rolled out. Department of Ag just rolled that out just a few months ago. So keep an eye on that. But if it was me, I'd stay away from that until there's a rule or a law about mixing those two. But yes, they're both taxable though, and you can do both, and you need a license for both. This is a good question. Does Logan, you know the answer to Adam says for those complimentary drinks, what am I basing the tax on? Like, is there like an industry average that would be based on if it's or like the salon we were talking about earlier? Do they have to just come up with? They're going to have a price schedule anyways, right? So
Yes, yes. I- if the I guess if the salon wants to take on that tax rate, you could do it. I guess you'd have to make up some kind of pricing range for
yeah.
that. Whatever your cost a bottle is and how many drinks you might have out of that bottle, and then create a price, and then you'd have to do the sales tax and the liquor tax on it. Keep in mind, it's very rare situations that liquor is exempt. There's only a few industries, so when in doubt, there needs to be charged liquor tax and sales tax. Also, having the appropriate license again is super important if you're going to be selling liquor and wine.
I would
So
assume even if you're giving it away, like like the person said, a
yeah,
salon, these salons, a lot of times they have champagne or, wine that they'll give to while people are receiving those services.
right.
I would definitely say reaching out to ABC about the license there. And so still,
Yes.
like we mentioned, needing a liquor by the drink account if they're serving any of the types of beverages that require that, which wine does. I don't know. I've never been to a salon that serves liquor drinks, but hey, they may have that. That may
Not
be
not
considered
yet
something.
until Katie finds one and she'll be
Yeah.
there. Maybe, allegedly. So anyway, hey, Katie,
But
do me a favor if you would. Would you walk people to the tax manual on alcoholic
sure,
beverages?
sure.
Because this manual, in fact, all of our manuals that we have on our website, guys, are phenomenal. They
Yeah.
are things that our department has spent a lot of time and effort on in the past few years, especially. So Katie's going to show you something here real quick.
All right. So I'm on the main webpage, tn.gov/revenue. To get over to all of our manuals, you're going to click on tax resources and then tax guidance. And then here are the manuals. Click on that. And then all the manuals are here. There's also some industry specific guides. I have heard a rumor, I shouldn't even say this because I don't know if it's true. I've heard a rumor that we've thought about doing a guide, a manual specifically for the hospitality industry. So be on
Yes,
the
I
lookout
think
for
that I
that.
think that is coming. I think
Yay.
that'll be in another couple of months.
That's
Yeah.
great. Great.
Hmm.
But this is the alcohol tax manual. You can click on prior versions here. Like I said, the laws change a lot here. So if you're uh, wanting to reference something like an old manual, you do that. Current manual, click here. You can search any web page or any online PDF by doing Control F. I'm going to type in price schedule, and you see here just a few things come up. But that's just searching. So I'll slowly go through here just so you see. Let me start at the beginning. The alcoholic beverage tax, wine tax, beer taxes, brand registration. Now we're kind of talking big stuff here, like a
Yeah.
lot of the three-tier stuff. But here we go. Chapter 6 is liquor by the drink. Um, authorization to sell, payment of the tax, inventory deductions. You can see we just barely touched on here today about theft, breakage, acts of nature, all that. But there's much more detail here. The person just had a question about the menu prices and how it's on the how it's handled on the bill. There's a section about that, record keeping requirements, and then the purchase markup audit procedure probably varies. If you sell liquor by the drink, I would highly recommend checking out this manual, pages 55 through 68, the liquor by the drink chapter at this point. Be very helpful to you. Should I stay on? Is there any place else you want me to take them on the website, Billy?
Uh, not that I'm thinking of right now. We clearly have the forms and all the other information by tax type out there too, so you
Yep.
can find loads of information out there. I think it's oftentimes shocking to customers when they go out and they decide to buy an adult beverage or something about how there is the sales tax and the liquor by the drink tax that's on that. But occasionally we'll get a few questions in about, is this right? Well, it is right. When most of the time our businesses are charging properly and everything's good, as far as that goes. But clearly it's an important thing to get it right. And we're glad you guys are here on board with us today at the webinar or listening to the recording so that you can get this right. And we appreciate your diligence on this.
While we're looking through to see if there's any other questions that are kind of overarching and that would be good to answer for the whole group, I want to call your attention to how to follow us and contact us if you don't already. Facebook, X, you can sign up to receive um, information about important updates that come from us. Want to also, you can email questions directly, just general tax questions to revenue.support@tn.gov, but for questions specific to any of the alcohol related taxes, liquor.tax@tn.gov. That's a specific email that'll go over to Kellen's group. We have a general tax helpline, which is 615-253-0600, but there's also the miscellaneous tax unit. That's the group that Kellen works in that handles all the different alcohol taxes. Questions specifically about liquor by the drink then would go to that group, 615-253-0680. And on this couple slides back here, Logan's group here for any of the audit related stuff, audit.communications@tn.gov. And if you're in an audit, you will have information specific to your auditor at that point.
Right. That's really important too, just real quick on that. And I know that Logan will echo this pretty quickly. We do get questions at different times. Well, I've got a question about this law or this thing or this procedure and all this. And then we'll look on the account and there's an active audit involved. We're going to always defer back to that auditor that's working with you because that auditor has way more detailed information than we would ever have in our desk here when we're answering general law questions and things of that nature. So just be aware of that, and your auditor's there to help you through that process. It's sort of amazing. I'll kind of pat Logan and her bunch on the back a little bit. We get a lot of feedback from people that have been engaged in audits and have said, wow, this auditor was like really helpful. I understand this now. And yeah, we had a little bit of a problem, but we know exactly what to do now. We get that all the time. It's really super cool. So, as much as you might think that they're the bad guys, they're really not. They're just doing their job. Logan
Just sounds
seems
scary.
like a friendly person to me, but she has to do her job, and so do the other auditors. And Kellen, when he's asking you about a bond or telling you what you got to do about your bond or whatever, he's telling you what the law says. Kellen took a little heat on when they went up on the required amount of bond. And did Kellen come up with that off the top of his head? No, it was a legislative change. So
We don't make the laws here.
we work for the people across the street, across Charlotte Avenue in Nashville, and that's called the legislature. So they're the ones that call the shots, so to speak. And we're glad to help y'all out with that too. I think there was another question that popped up here. Let's see. I think maybe Dan put this out here. Talk about what would be found in a bond review that would cause an increase in the bond requirement. So would you talk about that for just a second there, Kellen?
Yeah, so the bond review increase is mainly just based on liquor sales. So if you're having a good year, serving a lot of liquor, then your bond requirement is more than likely going to go up.
And then they've got a window that they need to basically up that bond in so that they remain compliant, right?
Yeah, we normally give them 30 days to give us any increases, and then after that point, that's when liquor licenses can possibly be delayed in terms of renewals or possibly canceled at that point.
Yeah, and Kellen and his crew work really close with TABC in trying to make sure that the Beverage Commission and Revenue are, communicating properly and making sure that people retain a proper licensure at all times and all that. So, it's important, and one hand kind of feeds the other. So you got to be sure you're dotting I's and crossing T's everywhere there is in this process because you don't want to run afoul of what's required. That's for sure.
That's correct.
So anyway, Katie, anything else, or do you think we're about at the end here?
I think we're good to wrap things up here. Any last words from Kellen or Logan? Words of advice, things that while you've got a big audience here of people that call your offices, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would just say, just kind of pointing back to my previous, I guess you say tips. Just register with the Department of Revenue first. Just get all your tax accounts registered, and also your bond. Just make sure on the bond, every section that you see there should be completed. If you're confused on any part, just give us a call or email at the email address, and we can walk you through it.
Wonderful. How about you, Logan?
Well, not much to more relay on than what I already have is basically just understanding your point of sale system is very huge too. I can't stress that enough. We get in there and we're like, oh man, it wasn't set up right. Always checking and go all the way down to the receipt, making sure it's doing what you want it to do, how you want it explicitly charged in the tax. Is your tax going to the report? That way you can correctly file.
Good advice there. Thank you.
I
Well,
just want to thank the people that are on the webinar today that are in the industry for
yeah.
their diligence too, because this is a lot. there's a lot going on here. So it takes a lot of your time, and you've got a lot of stuff to do. If you're trying to run a restaurant, some other type of establishment or bar or whatever, there's always something to do. So you guys took your time to be with us, and we appreciate that a whole lot.
One other thing I want to mention too, real quick, is that the ABC does a great job of education as well. And I just attended one of their webinars last week about I'm sorry, licensing law. And I believe they mentioned on that one that they're going to be doing a series of other webinars too. So definitely peruse their educational materials as well. And Logan, Kellen, thank you both so much. Takes a village, right? Usually we just have one CME SME, but so good to have both of y'all on here and what you do. You are the subject matter experts, and we really appreciate your help. Next month, let's see here, we are doing tax exemptions for military service members, kind of a niche webinar there, but join us for that one. Then we've got business tax deductions in March, and another webinar coming up in April that may be relevant to some people on this webinar is taxes for wineries, distilleries, and breweries. So we've got another new business workshop coming up on April 2nd. You register for all these by going to our taxpayer education and outreach tile on our from tn.gov/revenue, and then either clicking on tax webinars or new business workshops. We are recording this. We will have a recording of it posted either later today or tomorrow over on the tax webinars page. That's where you can register for the upcoming webinar. And then at the bottom, if you scroll to the bottom of the tax webinars page, you'll see a webinar video library that has a ton of webinars in it. Someone asked if we get a hospitality manual, will we do a webinar on that? I would guess yes.
Yeah, we will.
So again, thank you all for being here. If you want CPE credit, again, just answer yes to the survey on the way out. For those of you that don't need CPE credit, please fill out just a couple questions on that survey to let us know what we can do to help you more, and any ideas you have for future webinars would be great to hear about too. So thanks again, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.